Hey folks, Jessica here. So, I am really excited about today's video. I've been getting back into Granblue lately, and as such, I have been spending a lot of time updating old grids. I've been either finishing grids that were pretty close, or finding intermediary options for grids that aren't quite there yet. And as such, it occurs to me I have never done a video on gacha weapons that are worth using. So I think we all know that grand weapons are super good. And let's start there. You should never reduce a grand weapon. All of them are pretty good. And the ones that aren't as good, you should still just hang on to them. Because, like, you never know when the meta might shift to make them a valid option again. Or you might never know when, like, you need the specific thing they do for a niche fight. In general, grand weapons are just so hard to get multiple copies of, you don't want to ever reduce them. Just hang on to those. But beyond grand weapons, there's quite a lot of gacha weapons that are pretty good. There's a bunch that serve as fine intermediary options if you don't quite have all the grand weapons you need for a grid. And there's a handful that are actually best in slot for your grid that are better than any of the grand weapon options you should have. So today's video is going to be covering that. I'm going to start by giving you some things to look out for, because I'm not going to be able to cover every single gacha weapon that's good, because there's just so many that are worth using. A lot of them are good in a niche situation, and then a lot of them might be useful just depending on what specific weapons you have for your grid at this point in time. And then once we get through those rules, I'll also call out a handful of examples from each element that are very, very good. That said, be ready for a little bit of heartbreak, because honestly, a lot of you have probably reduced or sold some of these weapons. And, don't feel too bad about the heartbreak, because honestly, I have also reduced some weapons that I probably should have kept in hindsight. So buckle up, that's going to be today's video. Let's jump into it. So I think the best way to demonstrate this is to just jump into my box and show you some of the weapons I've got laying around, because these will all be good examples of weapons that are worth keeping. So the classic example, and kind of like the baseline for something that might be worth keeping, is something like Greatsword Andalius. This weapon, you primarily keep it because it has damage cap up. Any kind of weapon that has damage cap up, don't reduce it. It's probably worth hanging on to. And I will point out that this is a super basic weapon. This is Althea's weapon, and all it gives you is attack and damage cap up. But even so, this is still used in a meta Earth grid. Like, my Earth grid is, let's see. This is what my Earth grid looks like, and I definitely use one of these. So that shows you how important damage cap up is. Now, another example of something similar is, let's filter, something like Bloody Scar. This is Vite's weapon. I think he's Vanya's brother. Is he Vanya's brother? Vampy? Someone let me know in the comments down below. But this thing, you primarily use it because Dark Ally skill damage cap. That's the main reason, but the rest of the stuff on here is also quite good. Big crit rate and small attack. If you're using a non-enmity Dark skill damage team, this is a really good weapon to have, and that's also a really strong build for Dark in general, so it aligns with some of Dark's meta builds. So start with keeping weapons that are cap up, any form of cap up. Don't reduce those. Now, you might have noticed I said non-enmity Dark skill damage build. The reason I said non-enmity is there is a similar weapon that is also a gacha weapon that is better if you're running enmity Dark, and that is Vagabond. This is Kalulu's spear, and this is actually an example of one of the very, very, very few times I've used Damascus on a non-grand weapon. In retrospect, I pulled a lot more of these hints, so I probably shouldn't have used Damascus on it, but I needed this thing fully uncapped at the time for the stuff I was doing. This thing is big enmity skill damage cap up. So if you're not enmity, then Blaze Scar is better. If you are enmity, this thing is better. But they're both very good options. Don't get rid of either. And another example of weapons that are worth keeping, things with Garrison. So this goes for a few specific elements. So if you're not familiar with Garrison, let me see, what example do I have? Actually, here, let's go to stash. So I recommend doing something like this if you've got the resources to get all the stashes. Just throw all of your SSR premium weapons into a separate stash. Because I don't like these floating around in my regular inventory because I don't want to accidentally reduce one of these. By the way, if you didn't know, I'm sure you guys know this, but if you reduce a non-gacha weapon, you get 20 shards. If you reduce a gacha weapon, you get 100 weapon shards, and then all more of the other stuff as well. And this is a reason why people do reduce a lot of gacha weapons, but be careful because yes, you do get more shards, but you have to weigh that against whether or not the weapon you're reducing is worth keeping or not. So just be careful. I know you do get more shards, but yes, garrison. It's a really good example of a garrison weapon. Gangsta knife. This is Fire Guisis. Fire Uisis. Uisis. I don't know how you say her name. The Yakuza sword girl. You can tell it's a Yakuza weapon because it's like, it's one of those little knives that you chop your UB piece off with. anyway. But yes, this thing. It's got big enmity. Okay, great. Enmity is always good. Fire is more stamina element, but enmity is still fine. It's good for hard fights where you can't necessarily prevent yourself from taking damage. Small crit, so enmity crit, that's pretty good. But here's the big thing, garrison. Medium garrison. If you're not familiar with garrison where enmity increases your attack as HP gets lower, garrison increases your defense as HP gets lower. And significantly so. If you want some examples of this, you can look at some of my Six Dragon raid fights, the solos I've been posting lately. I use one garrison weapon, a couple of those, and it significantly reduces the amount of damage you're going to take. If you run multiple copies, you start taking very, very little damage as your HP gets lower. And it totally aligns with enmity, because you're going to be harder to kill as you get lower HP, and you're going to start hitting harder as you get lower HP. So you see why this weapon would be pretty good. But there's more to it than just that. If you were in an element, say, like wind, garrison's much less important because wind has Indra's Edge, which you can farm from Garuda. I think Marigna also drops it. But you definitely farm it pretty easily. This thing gives you medium attack, medium crit, big garrison. This is a very, very good garrison weapon. It's farmable. So garrison doesn't mean as much in wind. For fire, though, there are very few sources of garrison. I actually cannot, off the top of my head, think of a farmable garrison weapon for fire. I think Balmung. Yeah, Balmung from one of the events has garrison. But that thing is not very good. Like, just get out of the way. That thing's not very good. The other garrison weapon for fire is another gacha weapon. That's Deirdre's Heart. This is Valentine Skahaka's. Valentine Skahaka. Is that how you say her name? All the Skahak? However you say her name. Skahak, like the Fate Go character? I feel like I've had this discussion before. However you say her name. Her weapon is big garrison, small attack, small HP. This is also pretty good. Gangsta Knife, I would say, is better, but this is an option as well. But yes, if you're talking garrison wind, not that good. You're talking garrison fire, very good. So there's a bit of awareness you need to have as to what is available in general for the elements. Certain skills are better in certain elements than others, but I would say if you don't have as much insight there, just look for skills like garrison, like cap up, and just if you see those on it, then think twice about reducing it, and then do a little bit more research to understand whether or not it is worth keeping or not. Next category of weapons worth keeping, things that give you crit. So here's Nagelring. This is Izumir's sword. Big boost attack, medium crit, supplemental water crit damage. These are all good things. They align together. This is a pretty solid option for a water grid. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the absolute best option for a water grid, but it's competitive, I would say, and I do use it in my water Highlander grid, as you can see. Crit in general, you want a lot of crit up until you get 100% crit. And most elements only have a few avenues that can get you more crit. So having weapons that are pretty good that have crit on them is certainly worth taking a second look at before you think about reducing them. If it's got crit on it, just have a little think-see as to whether or not you want to reduce it. I'll give you an example. Where is it? There's this one weapon I use for wind, which I would say is very much not meta, but because I don't have a second Evanescence, and because my Qinglong spear is the damage cap one and not the crit one, I actually use this thing, which is Yirkun. Yirkun? I think this is Uisis, like Wind Uisis's weapon. She's yeah, because her girl, it's got all the cool gacha weapons. But the thing is big crit, medium attack, and then negative double attack rate, but no one cares what double attack. So like big crit, medium attack. Is it the best option? No. But because I don't have the crit spear and I don't have a second Evanescence, this actually fits pretty well. So I could probably just use this thing and then so this was a big crit, this thing's a big crit, and I switch this to a crit spear, then I think I'm pretty close to 100% crit without having a second Evanescence. So that's where we get into a little bit of what's good for you is going to depend on what you have on hand. Okay, another example. There are a few elements that have a lot of trouble getting a specific weapon type. So a really great example of this is fire and fist weapons. So you have Colossus Fist, which is farmable. This thing is terrible. One of the worst weapons in the game. Gives you slight chance to dodge and counter, and that's it. Also Magna, so you're running Primal, not that helpful. They did add this thing, which is only slightly better. Slight chance to dodge and counter. Again, why? This is an awful skill. I don't know why they had this skill. This skill's terrible. And then big boost to melee, especially fire allies attack. So yes, it is a big boost attack, but only for melee specialty characters. So it's super limited in where you could use that. You want to look at like other options you have there that are farmable. There's a couple of event weapons, I think, like I don't know where the Sea Urchin Fist is from, and this is the Shadowverse weapon. These are both EX attack, so like they're fine, but they're not great. So for this, I like you really want to use something like, say, the weapon I already showed, which is Deirdre's Heart, because again, it's pretty good effects and gives you boost to fire allies attack and shield on charge attack. You could alternatively farm, I guess, Vilnius's Finger, but this is an enmity weapon specifically. So if you're running Stamina Fire, which tends to be what you would run because of Ixaba, then not a great option. I guess one more option that, you know, you could get is good old Crimson Finger. This is a moon weapon. This thing is big attack. It's big attack, medium enmity. It's a Gisla. It is a Gisla. But yeah, like if you have Deirdre's Heart, that's a solid option. So like when you look at a weapon, you have to take into context of what is available for that element. And in fire specifically, you start playing a lot of fire fists, and there's a lot of gacha fire fists. Give them a second look. They might be worth using. And then a few more things to just round out the weapons you might want to keep an eye out for. This weapon's going to assume super sketch, and I'm not going to lie, it is. But I did use this legitimately when I very initially cleared Lucilius HL for my HP weapon. And that is something like this. This is not a good weapon. It gives you cap up, but its only skill is HP. But why I'm mentioning it is I was playing Primal Wind, Zephyrus. And Zephyrus doesn't have great access to HP weapons. If you know Lucilius HL, you need to have a certain amount of HP when the fight starts, or it's a non-starter, you will instantly die. So this is how I got over that cap. I'm not saying this is a good weapon. Let me just repeat that. But if your element has trouble getting HP, you might want to hold on to an HP weapon in that element just in case you need to do something like meet a health trigger. Not generally a thing you're going to want to do, because one more time, this is not a great weapon, but I needed the HP at the time, and it kind of filled that role. So you're going to see some niche weapons like that. Additionally, another thing you might want to keep an eye out for are weapons with very weird charge attacks. So, example, I did a video a while back during the initial Tower of Babel where I killed the final boss without losing any characters, using exactly two characters on the whole team, which were Jita and Nier. And granted, it was kind of exploiting how that fight worked, but basically, this weapon is what enabled that strategy. You can watch the video, it's like an hour long of me just smashing this boss for ages on super fast forward. It was like 400 turns or something to kill the thing, but I was able to do it because of this weapon. And the reason why is the charge attack on this weapon creates a green potion. And I'm not going to get into how the whole thing works. You can watch the video. It's up on my channel if you want to see that. But being able to create a green potion let me heal myself enough that Nier's effect, before it got nerfed specifically for this strategy. It let me heal myself up enough that the next hit from the boss wouldn't kill me, and I would just keep on creating potions. I ended with like 40 potions, I think. And I just Vegeta eventually became completely immortal to the point where she literally could not take damage. There was just no way to damage her at all. It's a wild ride. You should check out that video if you're not familiar with the strategy I'm mentioning. Uh, I'll link it in the comments down below if you haven't seen it in the description down below. But yeah, if you've got something that's got a weird charge attack, think about keeping it. And then a couple more things to keep an eye out for. Weapons that have a weird effect. In a similar vein to the charge attack on Ouroboros Crete. Ouroboros Crete, not a great weapon, but again, the weird potion thing enables a strat you can't do otherwise. In a similar vein, this is Yule, OLG Yule's axe. And it's got this skill, Fire Barrier. Fire Barrier makes it so you have a chance to remove one debuff from yourself at the turn start. Not saying this is a great skill, and I don't actually know what the percentage is. It might be super low, but I've held on to it because, you know, there might eventually someday come a fight where it's important to have this passively on a weapon. Just keep in mind, like, if you really need the shards, then you're probably safe nuking this thing, but I would hold on to it just in case. And then the last category of weapon to look out for. Weapons that don't yet have their 4-star uncaps. Let's just grab an example. This is Deep Desire. Deep Desire is Earth Vira's weapon. Right now, it's just got big Earth attack and then big Dark HP. It's one of those weapons. This is not a good weapon. Not by any stretch, but you never know what might happen when it gets its 4-star uncap. This could get a damage cap up. It could get, like, big crit. It could get big crit and a damage cap up. You could get garrison. You never know. Until it's fully, like, 4-star uncapped, you don't really have an idea of how good a weapon it might become. So be careful about getting rid of anything that's only 3-star max uncap at this point in time. There's a lot of examples of weapons where, like, they became good with their final uncap. Like, here's a random example. This thing isn't great. This is Sochette's fan. Again, big attack, big HP, like big water attack, big fire HP. Not a very good weapon, but then its final skill got unlocked and it was boost to damage cap. So it suddenly went from being garbage to, hey, you know, that's worth using. Plus it's Water Fist. Kind of hard to get Water Fist, at least at that point in time. And it's still kind of hard to get a good Water Fist in Primal. So this thing suddenly went from being not very good at all to, hey, that is actually usable in a few grids. So be cautious about getting rid of anything that's not already 4-star uncapped until you know what that 4-star uncap is. When the 4-star uncap comes along and if it's still bad, then okay, fine, reduce it. But yeah, be careful. We've got a little Stig joining us to talk about weapons. It's my favorite part, and his as well, apparently. So, Gangsta Knife and Deirdre's Heart I already talked about, but I'll mention them briefly again to recap. Gangsta Knife is medium garrison, big enmity, small crit, and it has really good charge attack as well. Like, extremely solid weapon. Even over a lot of grand weapons you might run for a harder fight. If you're ever really not sure if a weapon's worth keeping or not, you can always look on the wiki. For a lot of weapons, they will call out this weapon should not be reduced or used as fodder. So you can use that as kind of an indicator as to whether or not the weapon is worth keeping. But again, like you want to look into it. Like they might not call out weapons worth keeping, but it might be good for your specific case depending on what you've got. Deirdre's Heart, again, already talked about it. It's a fire fist weapon. Fire has trouble getting good fist weapons. This thing is Garrison, small attack, small HP, pretty good charge attack. Alright, new weapons. This thing, Tropical Fairy. This thing is Fire Tina's weapon, and it is excessively good. I was looking at this earlier in my box, and I'm like, oh, that seems pretty good. And now that I look at it and like all its fully uncapped stuff, this thing is extraordinarily good for a fire staff. So Fire Staff. Fire has access to Colossus Cane if you need a staff, but that is not a great option. It's okay, but for Primal, this thing is way better. So its charge attack inflicts burn, okay, whatever, but Hellfire Crest gives all allies a Hellfire Crest. This ties into summons like a Surtur. A Surtur gives you increased, your whole team increased attack based on the number of crests you have. Crests in general are a mechanic that comes and goes and like really depends on what characters are in the element, and it's highly variable in whether or not it's particularly good. But there are characters like Water Cagliostro, who is one of the most meta-defining characters for Water, who heavily relies on the ability to get crests. So a weapon that gives crests is always worth holding on to just in case a character comes along that really benefits from crests. But in addition to that, if you 4-star uncap this, all allies gain mirror image on charge attack. That is very, very good. A team-wide mirror image will allow you to do some fights that you wouldn't normally be able to do. It will let you to survive some charge attacks that you normally would have trouble dealing with. On a charge attack is extremely useful because you'd be able to get up pretty quick as well. So that's very good. But in addition to that, it's got big fire attack, small stamina. So like that alone, pretty spicy. It's small stamina, but still, it's stamina. And in addition to that, if you have 5 crests at end return, you will auto nuke the enemy and you will heal your whole team. This thing is stacked. This weapon is so good. I never realized how good it was. Yeah, this thing, very much worth keeping. Then a few other options. Metal Destroyer. This thing's pretty basic. This Colossus's weapon, it's big attack. It is damage cap up. So again, all you really need is attack and damage cap up, and you're probably worth keeping. Its charge attack's okay, triple attack up, and then 20% echo. Not bad. This is Red Sphere. This is Drang's ball. Drang's red ball. It just got its 4-star uncap. So again, weapons do get their 4-star uncaps eventually, and it usually boosts them pretty significantly. Charge attack's okay, refreshed and uplifted, whatever. All this stuff, like this is an example weapon that's a bunch of stuff that's like they're all right, but all of them together, it's like okay, maybe you're actually pretty decent with all this stuff put together. So it gives you attack and crit, medium attack and crit, small boost to charge attack damage, and then also progression, so more damage as time goes on. All those together equals a pretty decent weapon, to be honest. Excuse me. And the last thing we'll talk about is Mystic Spray Gun. This is Ilnat's weapon. Ilnat is the graffiti girl. It's a graffiti gun, so it makes sense. This thing gives you random buffs. Can apparently be 30% attack up, armored or refresh, whatever. And then 30% charge attack damage up, 10% charge attack damage cap up on charge attack. Keep that in mind. Big boost to fire attack, small boost to fire charge attack damage, and then boost to fire charge attack damage cap. So what you get here with all these fire boosts is a weapon that's very good for one turn killing. Because remember, it's a gun, so you can use it with relic breaker, and it's giving you charge attack damage and cap up on charge attack, plus on its own also charge attack damage and charge damage cap up. So if you're having trouble one turn killing, a weapon like this will get you a lot of the way there. So this thing, pretty good. Okay, dark weapons. So we're talking about the first two real fast since we've already talked about them. Bloody Scars, the first one. This is Vite's weapon. I didn't mention this before, but it has delay on charge attack. Delay on charge attack is extremely useful. In addition to that, it's got big crit, small attack, and then this is the main reason skill damage cap up. This is very good for non-enemy skill damage. Dark and skill damage dark is a pretty common setup. If you're running enmity skill damage, though, Vagabond is better. This is Kalulu's weapon. Again, it is big enmity and then skill damage cap up. If you only have a bloody scar and you're running enmity dark, it like it's fine. Like Vagabond is better, but bloody scar is also fine. And then a category of weapons I didn't talk about earlier when I was talking about recent keep weapons are weapons that have a good Swordmaster slash Glorybringer effect. So if you're not familiar with Swordmaster slash Glorybringer, they have the ability to activate different skills based on the sword, the saber or katana you're using. And this is Dark Jeanne d'Arc's weapon, Disparia, and Disparia has a Awaken effect of dealing a bunch of plane damage. And the reason why you want this is if you are slime blasting, which I did a very, very old video on, but should still largely be relevant, except for you can solo slime blast now. The main thing you want to do is like deal a bunch of plane damage and then hit refresh and then do it again and again and again and again and again. You get a ton of XP and a ton of rupees. So this weapon is very, very good for that. It does other shit, but that's really the main reason you want this thing for the slime blasting element. A weapon that's pretty good, that maybe you've not thought about as much, is Soul Eater. Soul Eater is Halcyna's weapon, Halcyna's Chainsaw Girl. And I'll just mention the charge attack briefly. It's got 2 ticks of mirror image on it in addition to other stuff. 2 ticks of mirror image is pretty good at boosting survivability of Jita. So thing to keep in mind. But the main reason you want it is big attack, medium crit. So not bad. Ishtar is Eustace's, however you say his name. Well, all the hard to say names. It's his gun, and his gun's pretty good. The main reason you use it is big attack and then medium charge attack damage and then medium crit. It's just a lot of stuff on it and all of it's good. Gandring, you might have seen me use this in my grid occasionally. This is Tanya's weapon. Tanya's weapon gives you Veil on charge attack, which potentially is pretty good, plus a 3k shield, which is rather high, and then it's got a stackable attack up. But the main reason you do it is big attack and then charge attack damage cap. So potentially good for one-turn kill setups, or for charge attack centric dark builds, which do exist. Like if you use Shalem, Shalem loves this weapon. Alabaster Zenith is Lucius's weapon. And this thing gives a bunch of shit, but the main reason you use it is charge attack damage up plus charge attack damage cap up plus skill damage cap up. It's Dark has a lot of skill damage cap up weapons, which fits with the fact that skill damage Dark is very strong. But yeah, big boost to charge attack damage and then big boost to charge attack damage cap is the main reason you use this. Again, very good for one-turn kill setups. Last weapon, Lunalu's weapon, Ruling Pen. So this just got its 4-star uncap. Again, weapons get considerably better sometimes when they're 4-star. So this is an example, unlike the other few weapons we've talked about, which are a smattering of a bunch of disparate skills, this one aligns very well with itself. So big attack and then medium crit, and then in addition to medium crit, supplemental crit damage. So this is very, very good for crit dark builds. Let's move on to the next element. Okay, light. Light's interesting. So Sword of the Cops, first one we talked about, this is Valentine Melisabel's weapon. Its charge attack is skill damage up and skill damage cap up, plus it removes 1 debuff from all allies, so it's a clear. Clear on charge attack is pretty strong. Big boost to light allies attack, and then boost to light allies skill damage cap. You'll note if you've played Valentine Melisabel, she does a lot of skill damage. So this all very much aligns with her, and kind of fits a trend that they've been doing with more recent characters, where the character tends to synergize pretty well with their weapon. I like it because it just makes everything package up really nicely, and I like it when the character packages up nicely with their weapon. Sharp Letter. I'm not going to say this is good right now, because it's not. but it has potential. And I want to highlight this because it shows you the kind of weapon you might want to keep an eye on in case it becomes better at 4-star. This is Summer Howlmal's weapon. It's weird to call them Summer Howlmal because it's the only version of Howlmal you can get, but yeah, it's Howlmal's weapon. Its charge attack's terrible. Boost double attack rate. And then its skills aren't great either. It's medium and light ally attack, and then medium light ally double attack rate and crit rate. You don't care about double attack rate at all, so it's basically medium attack, medium crit. Not great. But as the wiki highlights here, you want to save this for when it gets its 4-star uncap, because when it gets its 4-star uncap, this could potentially be very good. I would even suggest the fact that it is so mediocre right now might suggest that they might overcompensate when it becomes 4-star. And it is a limited character's weapon. The limited character weapons tend to become much better at 4-star. So this is a classic example of weapon. You just don't really want to reduce this in case it becomes very good when it gets 4-star. So I would hold on to this. But yeah, it is speculative. Official Jite is a very similar weapon. Official Jite is Summer Rosamia's weapon. And like Sharp Letter could become something like this, where it becomes very good. So the first thing to note here is all allies gain an Aurora Crest and then also deal bonus light damage to an enemy based on the number of Aurora Crests the main character, Cheetah, has, up to 6 hits. That's great. And then in addition to that is medium attack, medium crit, and then boost the light ally charge attack damage cap. And then when Ojita is using this at the end of turn, if you have 5 Aurora Crests, if you have 5 Aurora Crests, it will nuke all the enemies, and all allies will gain 10% charge bar. So this thing's stacked. This thing's really good. It does a lot of stuff, and all of it's pretty useful. Spectral Cleaver is an interesting one. Like I said, light's an interesting element. So this is Danua's weapon, and first thing to note here is it inflicts blind, dark attack down, and then petrify for 3.5 turns. Petrify stops enemies' charge diamonds from filling, and that's a pretty rare effect for a charge attack. That's pretty strong on its own. But the reason why I'm saying it's interesting is it is big light ally attack based on how low your HP is. It is big enmity for light. I think it is the only source of big enmity in light, for primal at least. And light is not an enmity element. It is very, very, very much a stamina element, more so than any other element, I would say. But this is an option. And there might come a time when they add a character that works very well with enmity light. So by keeping a weapon like this, you're keeping your options open in case like something comes along that shifts the meta up a little bit. So it's a good weapon to keep from that perspective. So it's big enmity and it's also medium crit. So not good right now, just given the meta for light at the moment. But you never know. Like, could potentially be worth keeping if enmity light becomes more of a thing. Ruler of Fate is Zoe's weapon. This is regular Zoe, not Visa Zoe. This thing is pretty good. It's also pretty straightforward. It's mildly straightforward. Its charge attack inflicts 10% attack down, def down, and debuff resist down at random up to 30%, which is, well, if it were at random, not great. But when you fully uncap it, it inflicts all 3 at the same time whenever you charge attack. All that stuff stacking 30% on charge attack is pretty useful, because stacking attack and defense down, typically you have to run something like Lumberjack or Robin Hood to get that, so getting it on just a weapon charge attack is nice. But the main reason to use it is big attack, small charge attack damage, and then light charge attack damage cap up. So this is for one-turn killing, because typically one-turn kills involve charge attacks, so that's why I use this. Pretty good. Another interesting weapon. This is Silva's axe, Full Metal Recoil. Again, note that this is Silva's axe. I know it looks like a gun, but the idea is, I guess she ran out of bullets, so she's just gonna beat the shit out of you with the butt of her gun, of her rifle. She's this thing. Well, okay, so it's got def down and light def down charge attack, not bad, but it's got a whole smattering of different things. So it's got medium attack, medium crit, light ally charge attack damage, and then light ally skill damage cap up. So again, it's kind of a little bit of everything, which together makes it a pretty decent weapon. It's not amazing because it's a little bit of a lot of things. It's not a lot of anything, but it's overall not bad. And then a weapon that is actually quite good, and one I use in my Drid, is Charlotta's weapon. This is Plaidheim Solus. Plaidheim Solus. That's how I'm gonna pronounce it. I have no idea how you pronounce that, but I don't think that's completely wrong. Blah blah blah, charge shack, whatever. The main thing, the reason you use it though, is it's a good crit weapon. So it's big attack, medium crit rate, and supplemental crit damage. So very solid for a crit light grid, and the meta light grid is crit based, so this fits well in it. Okay, wind weapons. We'll start with Destiny's Knuckle. Wind has a bunch of really weird weapons. So this is Show's weapon, and its Show is a weird one. Sorry, not sorry. Bonus wind damage, attack, whatever. But big boost to wind allies attack, and then here's the interesting part. You take 30% of your max HP and damage at the start of battle. So you start 80 out of 100% HP. Why that's interesting is it also has enmity on it. So this is an enmity enabler. One of the issues with enmity builds is in order for them to be really good, you need some way of enabling them, some way of lowering your HP. This is why Dark is so good as enmity, because it has Summer Zoe, specifically because of Summer Zoe and also Nier. And those are two of the best enmity enablers in the game. Other elements struggle a lot with enemy because they don't have a way of enabling, of lowering their HP naturally. So this one will get you part of the way there. 80% out of 100% isn't really enough to really turn on enmity, but it's a start. And I kind of really like that they're starting to do weapons like this. I'm a bit curious. If you have multiple of this, does it continue to lower your HP beyond that first 20% off? But yeah, no, this is a really interesting weapon. Yurkun, I think I've mentioned this before. Yurkun is Yusis' weapon. Yusis is the Yakuza girl. I've mentioned this before, I think. I use this in my wind grid right now. I'm using it as a placeholder, granted, because I don't have a second Evanescence. But I'm using it because so it's a charge attack, is attack up, defense up, whatever. But it's in my grid because it's big crit rate and then medium attack. Granted, you take a 10% hit to double attack rate, but again, who cares about double attack rate? So big crit, medium attack. So right now, I'll point out, is already good enough to use, granted as a placeholder in my grid, but it's not 4-star uncap yet. So this is another example of a weapon that you really want to hold on to because it could potentially be very good at 4-star. Because again, it's already kind of good enough to use in my grid. So who knows where this could go 4-star, but yeah, this one, I would keep an eye on it. I'm actually really excited to see what this becomes at 4-star. I suspect it will be good, but we'll see. Sailor V is Ingwe's weapon, Summer Ingwe. This thing is charge attack is blind and charm, which is not bad, but the main reason you use it is its garrison enmity. We've been over this before. Garrison enmity work very well together. Lupercalia. This is Valentine Grimnir's weapon. Valentine Grimnir, already a very good character. It gives you 30-30 crit on charge attack, and then does a 4-hit nuke on charge attack. It's big wind ally attack, wind ally skill damage cap up. Wind does have skill damage build, so this one works with that. But the thing that's interesting and similar to that is this effect. When it's your main weapon, you deal a 4-hit nuke at the end of turn when you have 80% HP or above. So it auto nukes. Again, very interesting, works well together with everything else in the package. Heavenly Fawn Bow. This is Nausi, however you say his name. This weapon, it's big crit, small attack, skill damage cap up. All pretty good effects. This one is very interesting. This is Crimson Sapphire, Summer Yule's weapon, Wind Yule. It's been a while since I've used Summer Yule, actually. I can't remember. I mostly like her because she's Yule, but I can't remember what she actually does. But in any case, the reason why you want this, let's see. Once fully uncapped, you get 10% attack up, 10% defense up on all allies up to 30%, and 5% dodge rate up to 15%. So all pretty good bonuses on charge attack. And then it gives you a boost to wind attack, and then this is the really interesting one. One main weapon, restore 500 HP upon dodging. And again, you're boosting your dodge rate up. So it synergizes very well with itself, and it gives you the ability to passively restore HP, and it's pretty defensive because it's defense up and dodge rate up. So again, pretty good main hand weapon. And then the last one we'll talk about is Yoda's weapon, Wind Yoda. True Tiger's Bane gives you guaranteed triple on charge attack and then damage amplify, so that's nice. Small attack, medium multi attack rate up. That, I mean, multi attack rate up generally, it's going to vary from element to element whether or not that's a big deal. But it does give you bonus wind damage on the third hit of your triple attacks. So it's a way to get supplemental damage. So that's not bad. But yeah, that's wind weapons. I sure did say I wasn't going to talk about every single weapon for every single element, but I have talked about a lot of them, so I'm going to try to speed this up. Greatsword on Dalius, I already talked about it. It's Althea's weapon. It gives you big attack and then damage cap up. That's all it does. Despite that, this is still a very good weapon, and it is actually meta for Highlander Earth. So again, take note. If it says big attack, cap up, it's a very legitimate weapon. Metal, Nemene's weapon. You primarily use this because it's got attack and garrison, small garrison. It's got this thing where you take when you take damage, you get attack up. That really, I mean, you can make it work great, but it's mostly attack and garrison is why you use this. Stratomizer. This is Eustace, OG Eustace's weapon. This thing used to be super legit when Enemy Earth was more a thing. Enemy Earth still works fine because it's got a few characters that can self-enable enmity. But yeah, this is big enmity, small attack, and then skill damage cap up. Beach camouflaged Ragna. Bliss Ragna. This is Summer Silva's weapon. Summer Silva is a pretty good character because she can support from the back row. But this thing, it gives you medium attack and crit, and then boosted charge attack damage cap. Also, double mirror image on the charge attack, so not bad. Lovely Ace. This is Valentine Monica's weapon. Just Monica. Valentine's Monica. This gives you charge bar, charge attack damage up, charge attack damage cap up on charge attack, gives you a boosted attack, and then small boosted charge attack damage, and then charge attack damage cap up. You've seen this before on other weapons. This is basically expressly for one turn killing things, very strong. Note it's also a sword, also super cute, just Monica. Works with Relic Buster. If you want to use Rising Force instead, you have Heart of a Songbird rather. This is Lamretta's weapon. It's again essentially the same template because weapons follow templates often. Big attack, smaller charge attack, damage up, charge attack damage cap up. So you see where it's going. This is basically for Rising Force, whereas the other one's Relic Buster. Hard Knuckle. This is Pengi's weapon. So I'm gonna note that it has stunned on its charge attack for I guess 2.5 to 3.5 turns. I'm not sure what the rate of landing this is, but if you can consistently land this on charge attack, that is potentially extremely strong. But yes, this one is big charge attack damage up, skill damage up, and skill damage Earth is a thing, and then boosted charge attack damage cap up. So you're getting two cap ups and a charge damage boost. So this is pretty good. Embrace Demi-Clone. Embrace Demi-Clone is Beatrix, Earth Beatrix's weapon. It gives you a medium boost to attack and then boost to charge attack, damage, and charge attack damage cap. As you might be gathering, there's a lot of weapons that give you charge attack and charge damage attack cap up for Earth. I'll note that this weapon, while not super impressive right now, also doesn't have its 4-star uncap and is already decent. So this is another weapon that might become very good when it gets its 4-star uncap. Arsene. This is Catherine's weapon, and Catherine has a special place in my heart because she's the first SSR I grew. This is, I think, the first SSR weapon I got. Inflicts charm on charge attack, also delay on charge attack, as we talked about before. That's pretty good. And if that lands, then it gets you charge bar 20%. Also, it's a special delay, so it ignores the foe's delay immunity. So all this is pretty good on charge attack. In addition to that, it's big Earth Allies attack and then medium crit. This is a very solid weapon. Also super old school weapon. So all that, pretty cool. Ancient Bandages. This is Ayer's weapon. Ayer is one of the enemy enablers that we talked about before. But Ancient Bandages gives you crit rate up, keen, and then when you're below 25% up, more crit rate up. When you're below 25%, the crit rate up and the keen affects all allies. Super good. Gives you enmity. Again, plays well with the character it comes with. Double attack rate up, no one cares, but it's garrison. So enmity, garrison. That's the main thing, but the charge attack is also very good. I feel like hours ago I said something along the lines of, we'll talk about the weapons real quick. Insert that meme. 5 eternities later. And here we are. Stig has joined us to talk about water weapons. And yeah, final element. So let's just start off with Scarlet Vein. Already talked about it. This is Sochet's weapon. It is notable, first off, for being a water fist. There's not a lot of water fist weapons. Its charge attack is pretty good. 10% charge bar gain up, that's not that big a deal, but 30% water attack up for the whole team, that's not bad at all. It is big attack and damage cap up. Again, big attack, damage cap up is all you need to be a good weapon. So this thing, good weapon. In addition to that, it's a fist. Nagel Ring is the other one we've already talked about. This is Izumir's weapon. Double mirror image on charge attack, that's nice. But the main reason you use it is big attack, medium crit, and then supplemental critical hit damage. Very good weapon overall. Speaking of crit, only for a cutie. This is one of the best weapons we'll talk about. This is Summer Cagliostro's weapon. Summer Cagliostro, I would say, is absolutely a meta-defining character for water at this point in time, especially for Primal Water. Primal Water's best grid is a crit grid, and Cagliostro is really what enables that grid to work so well. So what does this do? It's charge attack, the ultimate cutie. All of Kag stuff is super cute, obviously. All allies gain daily stress. That synergizes extremely well with Kag. This is another weapon that ties very strongly to the character it comes with. Because Kag wants everyone to have 5 daily stress to use her buff to supercharge their crits. So that works very well there. In addition to that, all allies gain 50-30 crit. That 50-30 crit, again, synergizes with all the crit stuff Kag does. In addition to that, it's medium attack, medium crit. And in addition to that, the unique thing it gets here is Transcendent Cuteness. Again, like I said, all Kag stuff is cute. Transcendent Cuteness, one main weapon, 5% boost to all allies' critical hit damage cap. There's not a lot of ways to get this kind of cap up. This is a very, very good weapon. Kag is a very, very meta-defining character for water, so very solid package. Definitely recommend picking up a Summer Kag. Let's see. 9th head of the cartload. This is Summer Andira's weapon. So, Summer Andira, I think you've noticed a pattern at this point. Some of the really good gacha, most of the really good gacha weapons, let's just say it, are ones from limited SSR characters, from seasonal SSR characters. That's no accident. That's gonna be a trend you see whenever you look at the various gacha weapons. So this thing gives you 20% heal on charge attack rate. Gives you a shield and charge attack rate. Remove 1 buff from foe. It dispels on charge attack. That is pretty rare and pretty powerful. Gives you medium attack, medium HP, and then gives you progression, medium progression. So medium boosted water allies attack based on number of turns passed. Progression is a pretty hard skill to get and also pretty strong. So this is overall an exceedingly good weapon. Meteora is Ingwe's weapon. This is just standard Ingwe. It's got like a charge bar jammed on charge attack, whatever, but the main reason you use it is it's got a boost to attack, and then it's got small MD, small garrison. Again, MD and garrison go very well together. That's why you use this weapon. Gottfried. Gottfried is Aglavale's weapon. This thing gives, you've seen this template before. Charge bar gain, charged attack damage up, charge attack damage cap up, boost attack, small boost to charge attack damage, boost to charge attack damage cap up. You've seen this a bunch of times at this stage. It's basically, was it Lovely Aces Monica's version? This is the water version. Overall, good weapon for 1-turn killing. Metal Hand is going to be our speculative weapon for water. This is Lady Caterpillar and Vera's weapon. It's Water Vera's weapon, basically. Well, Lady Caterpillar and Vera, but technically it counts as a Vera. So, not a great weapon at this point in time. Its charge attack lowers water def, fine. It gives you big boost attack, but cuts your HP by 10%, fine. Small crit rate buff. It's a speculative weapon because, again, big attack, small crit is okay starting point. Could become very good when it becomes 4-star uncap. It's also a water fist, and again, there's not a lot of water fists. So keep an eye on this one. Arvest Demi-Clone. This is Water Zeta weapon. Water Zeta's weapon. Water Zeta is also a meta character for water. Does an absolute tremendous amount of damage with her double strike and her assassin and her like super high damage charge attack. Very, very strong character. I should do a character spotlight on Zeta because I am Zeta. Anyway. Gives you bonus water damage on charge attack, also guaranteed triple attack on charge attack. But the thing that's interesting here is small attack rate, medium boost to water multi attack rate. Typically, multi attack rate isn't that big a deal, but it's I don't. We're not playing dark, so it's okay to have multi attack rate. But it's not that big a deal. But the big thing is 20% bonus water damage effect to the third hit of water allies triple attacks. So it's a way to get supplemental damage on multi attack in your grid. Pretty nice for that reason. Acid Bullet Shooter. This is Meliore and Sally Lau. Meliore and Sally Lau's weapon. Water defense down, debuff resist down. But the main reason to use it is big attack, small charge attack damage small charge attack damage up, and charge attack damage cap up. This is for one turn killing as a gun, therefore pretty good if you're running Relic Buster. There you go. Those are all the gacha weapons. Let's talk about, well, it's not all the gacha weapons, but it's all the ones I felt like calling out at this point. Let's talk on the other side of this cut for conclusions. Okay, we are finally done talking about weapons. So, to summarize, I call a bunch of specific examples of weapons that are pretty good and weapons with some potential. But I think just refer back to the things we talked about in the beginning. Certain skills that you want to keep an eye out for, like Garrison, Stamina, Enmity, obviously, any kind of cap up, anything that has a really good charge attack. Really, anything that's got a combination of effect you want, like attack and crit, in significant quantities, are probably worth at least considering. I think the thing that I hopefully have shown pretty clearly at this point are there are a lot of gacha weapons that are legit, that are worth using if you're running a primal grid. Not all of them are going to be comparative with grand weapons. Most of them won't be comparative with grand weapons. Grand weapons will be better than the majority of them. There are a handful that are competitive with grand weapons, or some cases even better than grand weapons. You're just gonna have to like just kind of keep an eye on the weapons you do have available and keep an eye out for ones I called out. And yeah, just look through your stuff. Like before you start reducing things, look at what the weapon actually does. And if it has a 4-star uncap, look at what it does when it's 4-star uncapped, because it might not be initially obvious in your box, because you really don't want to reduce something that may actually be useful for you. And a lot of these weapons, more so as Granblue gets on in the years, will be legit placeholders for when you want to get, when you're building towards a grand weapon. I think a thing that's worth talking about that we haven't really touched on is, well, what can you reduce? Because there are so many weapons called out and so many potentially good skills, it seems like, well, does that mean you can't reduce anything? How do you get shards? No, it doesn't mean you can't reduce anything. There's a lot of weapons that are simply okay that you can probably reduce. And there's a lot of weapons that are just straight up bad. I would say like 80% of the weapons out there are safe to reduce. You just need to know what you're looking for. Like, random example, what's safe to reduce here? Something like this. Hylam. It's garbage. Big attack, massive boost to your double attack rate. Not your team's double attack rate, your double attack rate. It is 4-star capped already. This is not a good weapon. Like, there's no mysteries left with this thing. It's already gets 4-star uncapped. So that's kind of one of those things to keep an eye out for. If the weapon already has its 4-star uncap and is not great with its 4-star uncap, you can probably just blow it up. It's fine. You can probably just nuke it. Other weapons. What does this thing do? Yeah, this is Percival's weapon. Again, it's big attack. It gives you defense the first 8 turns. It's not really a skill that you super want. And then it's got this weird unique effect for main character where you deal bonus attack against foes with Petrify. Again, not a great weapon. Probably safe to reduce this one as well. This thing, this is regular Flame Solace? Flame Solace? However you say this. This thing, boost HP, boost water defense. Not great. So there's plenty of weapons you can safely reduce. I would say one more last rule of thumb is don't reduce a weapon until you are sure you need those shards. Don't preemptively reduce weapons. Even if you just want to clear out inventory space, generally not worth it. Just hold on the weapons until you need the shards, reduce it then use the shards immediately. And that will probably keep you in the safe for the most part. And then, really, if you are having any doubts about whether or not you want to reduce a weapon, just go on the wiki, see what it says, something about whether or not you should keep it or if it's safe to reduce. Ask around. A lot of people give you opinions whether or not it's safe to reduce. And then I would say, unless you absolutely need the shards, err on the side of not reducing a weapon, because it's not a great feeling if you reduce something that's potentially pretty good. Anyways, hopefully this video has been helpful for you. It has been longer than I expected to be. So, yeah, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!